He's Pete Thamel from Sports Illustrated, senior basketball writer, and he covered the Philadelphia Regional with Florida Gulf Coast over Georgetown, and he also had Duke over Creighton. He joins us now. If we reseeded right now, Pete, who would be the number one seeds?
Well, if you judge by how well the team played in two games, and obviously biased from seeing it up close, Florida Gulf Coast would certainly be up there. I'm trying to think, just looking at the bracket, who probably played best in these two games. You know who's great was Michigan. They really, I really thought that was going to be the best game of the second round when they played VCU, and they came out with. I thought they really came out with a great game plan to handle their pressure, and they didn't get rattled early, and they never went too fast. And VCU wants you to go too fast, so I really thought the winner of that game would go to the Final Four. And I really think that Michigan's going to end up coming out of that bracket.
Really.
Yeah.
Oh, you get these matchups, and sometimes a team can make you play ugly. Therefore, you're not sure how good a team is. If you're looking at somebody now and saying, keep your eye on, they're still a great team, or do we have great teams in this tournament?
We do. I think Louisville's a great team. I think Miami won yesterday, like they've won all season long. They executed, and then, that step-back three from Larkin was just an unbelievable.
He didn't play well, but he had a big shot.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Miami's just found a way to win all year. They've gotten stops. They've grinded out games. They did it in an ACC that was pretty good. I like where they sit in the East.
And I'm also looking at some of these other surprises. I think we only have the mental capacity to absorb one Cinderella, so it's Florida Gulf Coast. We're all in on that. LaSalle had to win a play-in game.
Mm-hmm.
Who's a bigger underdog or Cinderella story here, LaSalle or Florida Gulf Coast?
No, it's Florida Gulf Coast. It's just not even close. The school came into play, and the school I believe was built in 1991. It is just a remarkable story from nothing to nowhere. Here's a good story about LaSalle. On January 2nd, I was down in Miami for the national title game. And I went and watched LaSalle play at Miami in a non-conference game. I'm not exaggerating. There were 800 people in the arena. It was a 9 o'clock tip. It was the day after New Year's. The place was completely dead. LaSalle led by 11 in the first half. Miami came back and won. And if you had told me that those were two Sweet 16 teams playing that night on January 2nd, I would have told you to get off South Beach and get a good night's sleep. It's a funny year how things have come together. LaSalle has one of their big men's injured, and they play four guards and they spread you out, and they've done a great job with some pretty good matchups. I think Wichita will get them in the next round. Wichita is good and has been good for quite a long time. Greg Marshall's a very, very good coach. Arizona probably played as well as anyone in the first round. If you're reseeding, they're higher than a 6. Boy,
But Florida Gulf Coast, we don't know what it is, where it is, and all of a sudden they come out of nowhere with that kind of style. What is it about them that makes them good? Not just exciting and different, but good.
College basketball has grinded down, Dan, into just this high ball screen kind of isolation. It's sort of slowly turned into like the NBA we all hated, 10 years ago. There's not a lot of creativity. There's not a lot of verve. Every possession is coached and overcoached. Look at the Fran Dumphy timeout yesterday with 10 seconds left. What do they end up getting out of that? Florida Gulf Coast has thrown alley-oops in tense moments of the game. Brett Comer, who you're having on later, who is a great kid to be around this weekend, plays with such a vision and verve, and they actually coach like basketball you'd want to watch. And I think that was what I'll always take away from covering them here this weekend was just what a free and aesthetically appealing style of play that they had. It was the way they won more than the fact that they won. I think that has allowed Florida Gulf Coast to capture America's heart. The alley-oop with about 2 minutes left against Georgetown's cut it from 19 to 7. You're the underdog now. All of a sudden, everything's falling apart. You're supposed to pucker up. And Brett Comer flips the ball over his right shoulder to Chase Feeler, and he just hammers down a one-handed dunk. I almost fell over in my seat in press row. Just the way they've played. And then, of course, after they're done, they expected to do it.
It's just, I like the excitement of that, and you bring up a great point that each possession is coached and overcoached. Where Florida Gulf Coast, I get the feeling they're allowed to play basketball.
Yeah, and not to say that Andy Enfield rolls the ball out, because I was very impressed watching them early yesterday against San Diego State, because they were at an athletic. They're very athletic, but they were at an athletic disadvantage. San Diego State has an excellent collection of athletes, and they did a great job, like running Comer through the middle and rubbing him off on screens to get him space. I mean, there were little nuances about Florida Gulf Coast that were very appealing. Andy Enfield worked in the NBA for a while. He worked in the ACC for a while. He's a very good coach. I don't know who will snap him up or where he'll go, but I think he would be an inspired choice. They are the antithesis of just the modern, grinded out, sort of soul crunching style that college basketball has devolved to.
He's Pete Thamel from Sports Illustrated joining us. Dan Patrick Show. What happened to Gonzaga?
You know, it's happened quite a bit lately. It's just hard to believe in Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament anymore. Mark Few is an excellent coach, and he's built the power there, but he has not been a good NCAA tournament coach. And what's happened to them has happened to them a lot in recent years. They simply haven't lived up to what they've accomplished in the regular season. And Wichita State jumped them, and you know, they straight up beat them in the last few minutes there. There was just sort of a flurry and a run, and Gonzaga just didn't respond. It's always hard with Gonzaga because they'll play teams early in the season, and I think they were a good team, and I honestly think they probably earned the number one seed with the schedule that was put in front of them. But when you play in a conference that's inferior, it's just always hard to judge if you'll be in that elite tier, if you really are that good. I think one of the things we learned from the opening weekend was really just how good the Big Ten was. You know, and I think that was that bore out by teams that advanced.
All right, let me go state by state here.
Yeah.
The team that emerges out of Florida is who?
Florida. It's a bad matchup for Florida Gulf Coast. Florida Gulf Coast with a couple games of film on them and some time to prepare. I think Florida will get up in them a little bit, and I'm sure Brett Comer will come on the show after and laugh at my prediction. But I think they can disrupt what they like to do and take them out of their game.
What about Miami? I'm talking about the best team out of Florida.
Oh, you know, I think Miami's going to go to the Final Four. I picked them, and I like them, and I think they'll be able to beat Indiana. Coming out of the East,
All
and
right.
I like Michigan coming out of the South.
Okay, let's see. Michigan over Michigan State, Kansas or Wichita State. Who goes further?
I would say that Wichita State goes further.
Interesting.
The Shakas.
Before I let you go, the UCLA job. How attractive is this job that you see what Howland did on his resume, and that wasn't good enough?
Yeah, it's an interesting time for UCLA because they're sort of chasing that ghost of John Wooden that's never going to come. It is a very good job. I angered some people on Twitter last night when I mentioned that I don't think it's the elite job anymore. Like a Duke is like an elite job. I just don't think UCLA is that good of a job anymore. I think we will be surprised at the caliber of coach that they hire, meaning it's not going to be Shaka Smart. It's not going to be a Brad Stevens. I think maybe they'll make a play for Jay Wright. I think this is going to be the kind of opening, and we've seen this in college football in recent years, Dan, where they're going to get some people some raises.
Hey, what's that say, though? You can't get the VCU coach at UCLA?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, these coaches know when they're at a VCU or they're at a Butler, and it's not like they're making $300,000. I mean, they make good money. They have good facilities. They're able to keep their staffs. I think what it says is that the world's changed. You can make a run at VCU. You can make a run at Butler. You don't need to go somewhere else to compete at the highest level. I mean, look at Butler's in a probably what's going to be the fifth best league in college basketball next year.
I think it's great that they're staying, and I do understand it because if you're making 1.5 at VCU, that's going to go a long way, a lot further than if you're making $2.5 million at UCLA. So I understand that, and you got a chance to be great in your conference and make a run in the NCAA tournament. But could Ben Howland go across the street to USC?
I don't think so. What they've seen is, LA is a hard college basketball town in a sense because you're way behind pro teams, you're way behind Hollywood. You have to sizzle. And Ben Howland, I like Ben Howland a great deal. I've known him since he was at Pittsburgh. They simply didn't sizzle enough out there. That's what it came down to. And then he danced with the devil a little bit with Shabazz Muhammad, and you probably saw that LA Times story last week. It wasn't the right crew to be dancing with at the end. And I really think Ben will go somewhere else. And I do think X's and O's wise, he's an excellent coach, and he'll put a good staff together, recruit good players, and continue to win games. This is a testament. His firing, to me, Dan, is a testament to how hard it is to stay somewhere more than 7 or 8 years anymore at a really high level in modern college sports. It's just really hard because you have to be not only a great coach, not only a great recruiter, you have to be like a carnival barker, and you have to appease your athletic director. And at that point, it's probably multiple athletic directors and boosters. And, you not only have to win, but you have to juggle and tap dance to appease everyone at the same time. And for UCLA, Ben just couldn't do that anymore.
Good to visit with you, Pete. Thanks for joining us.
Dan, thanks for having me.
All right, Pete Thamel.